Hello, good morning, everyone. Welcome as you start coming on in to the Sick of This show. It's Monday morning, so that means we're chronically illing out with Nick Paro. That's me, your host and creator who's sick of this shit and hurts a lot because chronic illness sucks. And I'm joined by my really good friends, Stephanie Wilson from Freedom Over Fascism. All of the things. Is it going to celebrate
Yes.
for you? Angrily celebrate.
No, it'll only do hearts for me.
Oh, good.
But I love you all.
Good morning, Steph. Thank you.
Good morning.
And then we have my other good friend, our chronic illness warrior and meditation creator, Beth Cruz.
Thank you.
Amazing meditations. I'm so excited for today too. Today's is going to be really good. And then our second part of the amazing meditations and additional photography and just being great is our good friend So. Welcome back. You missed last week.
Yeah. I was chronically ill. You put it nicely. It was just that. In the bed, typing. Yeah.
Hey, sometimes we chronically ill ourselves, and we need a break.
I hope we take one in the next couple of weeks, because I don't know about you all, but I'm ready. Before we say
we will not be here. I can already say this. I don't think we have anyone scheduled either. As we will not be here the day or the Monday after Christmas. So that way we have at least that morning off. People have it's Christmas weekend. Spend that morning, sleep in, chronically ill yourself, recover, let yourselves have a morning. So we won't do that. And we're holding up introducing, because we meander and wander, and that's what we do and who we are, is our guest today and good friend of the entire community, pretty much, across from Gen Xy with Dana Dubois and Lawrence Winterman, to Banner and Backbone, to all of us here, and a big supporter of what we're doing, and someone who's got a really cool background. So I'm gonna read his bio, or some of his bio, because Dr. Eric J. How do you say your last name?
It's pronounced Lullove, like the name Lou and then Love.
Okay, thank you. I didn't want to screw it up.
I've gotten everything from "Hey, I'll call you" collect, to Lullove, to Lullove, to I don't know how to pronounce your last name. It's fine. It's all good.
Mine's 4 letters and it's hard to pronounce, so I get it. So today we have Dr. Eric Lullove, who is private practice, and currently serves as the chief medical officer for wound healing. I won't say all of the location stuff just to keep some privacy for you. West Boca Center for Wound Healing.
I'm in South Florida.
In South Florida, focused on advanced wound healing and limb prevention with research and clinical interests in wound proteases, diabetic foot ulcers, venous leg ulcers, and peripheral arterial disease. I know that one because I've been tested for it, and I have some mild signs of it. So I'd love to actually ask you some questions about that.
You need a consult here.
Yeah, like I guess a free consult, but also just like your advice as someone who's seen it a lot, and who specializes or has interest in it. What your thoughts are around how to help prevent or keep it from getting worse, things like that. But we'll go into it. Dr. Lullove earned his doctorate of podiatric. I'm hoping I say
his feet.
Huh? Feet.
Podiatric medicine. Yeah.
Podiatric medicine degree from Kent State University, College of Podiatric Medicine in 2002. He completed his podiatric surgery residency at Michael Reese Hospital in Chicago, Dr. Eric is double board certified in wound care from the ABWM and the APWCA/CMET with added qualification, and is a fellow certified of the Academy of Physicians in Wound Healing. Let's just say Dr. Eric has a really good background and an amazing specialization. I'm going to keep reading because there's even more cool stuff. Dr. Eric accepted as a fellow at the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons of Glasgow, Scotland. Dr. Eric serves as a member of the editorial advisory board of Today's Wound Clinic, Wounds, and Journal of Wound Care. He serves the Wound Healing Society as a co-chair of the Government Affairs Committee and also serves the WHS as the liaison to the Alliance of Wound Care Stakeholders since 2012. He is also a sitting member of the HPM SAWC Planning Committee and CAMPS meeting. Dr. Eric has authored and co-authored articles regarding acellular dermal tissues, diabetic foot ulcers, venous compression, wound healing, advanced joint implant surgery, and practice management. Because he plays professional pickleball on the side, Dr. Eric's practice also focuses heavily on sports medicine and rehabilitation, and is certified in musculoskeletal shockwave therapy and advanced orthobiologics. Sorry, long words in medicine.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, he recently was awarded the bronze medal in 2023 for his camp cellular and matrix-like products, paper published in Journal of Wound Care. And you're married, you have 4 kids, 2 dogs, and love food and love to travel. That was kind of long. And I wanted to make sure I read a lot of it, and all of it was because it's really cool. And thank you for your support for all of us. And thank you for your support for me. I really appreciate it. And thanks for coming on and talking to us today. So I'm going to hand it over a little bit to you to introduce yourself.
More of you. I mean, I'm the one that's privileged here. I mean, this is such a treat for me. I mean, I'm always on the side chat when you guys are broadcasting. So for me to be one of the Hollywood squares here is, it's
that's dating yourself.
Well,
you are.
I'm pretty sure I'm older than you are.
So, no, I know that when you guys do your show, there's always the conversation of chronic illness and how chronic inflammation really leads into chronic illnesses, and why we're getting really close, by the way. And this is kind of like the offshoot topic, but we're getting really close to unlocking the actual frequencies of cellular tissues, like mitochondria, like resident cells of red blood cells, and if we can do that, then we can really truly unlock a lot of healing cascades. Because I'm going to use the old Star Trek analogy that we were talking about earlier, that remember the shows when you can harmonize the shield, the phasers at the same hertz of the shield, you can penetrate the shield and do damage. It's the same thing. We can do damage to cells by reversing the damage by harmonizing frequencies for healing. So we're getting kind of.
So is that kind of like the focused MRI and the sound therapy? I mean, like the
acoustic shockwave acoustic shockwave therapy, electromagnetic transduction therapy. Some of the newer coming out of Germany, and this is the youngest part of medicine, I think, is what we call electrical medicine, which is using and harnessing electrical energy to kind of affect cellular healing. We've already been doing it here. There've been products in the wound care environment that had it was a topical dressing with nickel and cadmium that would create a voltage charge across the dressing, which would help to stimulate cellular healing along with antimicrobial use. So we're kind of scratching the surface, but it's really early. But I know that all of you have questions, so I got
really cool.
my black pepper vest on. Let's go. So
first off, that's really cool. So partially too, because I was a musician and I studied music theory and composition, and I didn't complete the minor, but I worked on a lot of the pieces of a minor for sound engineering and audio design. And I worked as a sound engineer for Carnegie Mellon's orchestra and operas and solo performances. So I love sound and the idea of it. And I grew up with a psychologist for a mom who has taught me throughout my life that music plays a lot of positive roles in psychology and psychotherapy and memory care. And it's really interesting to think that maybe it goes a lot deeper as to why certain songs resonate certain ways with memory, and maybe because it's going on a cellular level. Do you think that could be where a link is, like classical music? A lot of people talk about the Mozart effect. Do you think there might be a link with the research that you're doing and the work that you're doing into sound and resonance and frequency therapies? Do you think that would relate as to why the Mozart effect might actually be a real thing or might not be?
Not being my primary specialty, and I would not consider myself an expert in the neuropsychology of the Mozart effect, because that's not, but I do have a friend of mine who is a really good neuropsychologist that would love to probably come on and talk about this. But
absolutely. I'd love to have. Love to have them.
Into that. So there's a feeling of how, in just general, like certain music as a whole, because it's auditory, creates a sensory response, which then leads to a neurochemical transmission in the brain, which can also release endorphins and enkephalins, which help the healing process and give you the natural healing ability. So I think it's no different when we do things that are destructive that create that same euphoric effect, that it still has a cellular effect no matter what. Whether it's, unfortunately for a lot of people, they have vices, and some are drug use, some are alcohol, some are behavioral, some are narcissistic, and some are sociological. So some are acting those out in sociopathic roles that we just saw over the weekend, unfortunately. And so I think there's a lot of chemical things that happen with sound, taste, all of our senses. It's all part and parcel of how our brain interprets external stimuli. And I would not be one to discount the role of auditory input.
So what is the extent of like the type of therapy that you do, and how does it relate to like frequencies?
Okay, so really, when I'm treating patients, I'm dealing with a lot of patients who are diabetic, a lot of older generation Americans, the beginnings of we're hitting the kind of like the tail end of the greatest generation, the original Medicare recipients, and now we're getting into the boomers that are starting to come on Medicare. And what we're seeing is that through each generation, we're seeing different levels of activity. So like the greatest generation, this was not a generation that like exercised and worked out. They were told, you turn 62, you retire. But the problem is that retired in their early 60s, and now they've done nothing for 25 years. So now they're in their mid to late 80s. My grandmother is 104 and still sharp as a tack, and God bless her. She's amazing. But nobody would have expected her. I mean, she didn't certainly expect it. I mean, she went in for a pacemaker generator change at 103.5. And her electrophysiologist was like, I've never changed the generator on anybody. And she's already on her second pacemaker battery.
My great grandmother was 107. Right.
That's amazing. Bless her.
Yeah.
I think when we're talking about
magic though involved.
Oh, absolutely. And a lot of it's her DNA. I mean, your first three risk factors for any health issue are DNA, and DNA. So for all of us sitting here, and for everybody in the chat, hi everybody. It's actually me. We can still blame mom and dad for everything.
Good.
Good. I do.
It's mom and dad's fault until that's where DNA from, right? So that's just it's part of it. And then you have your risk factors: smoking, exercise, diet, lifestyle. Sleep is huge. I mean, I'm not a PhD in sleep disorders or an MD in sleep disorders, but I think any psychiatrist or psychologist that studies sleep disorders would tell you, with their weight in salt, how important those REM cycles are for your neurochemistry to feel balanced at night. I know if I'm not sleeping, if I don't get enough sleep, like I don't feel it the next day, but it's the day after I feel really like on edge and irritated. But getting back to the original question, Nick, is a lot of the patients I'm treating have a lot of chronic conditions. And now what we're seeing in the younger generations, even the boomers now moving into Gen X, even into Gen Y and millennial, is a much more active lifestyle with much more active injury, more musculoskeletal injury, orthopedic injury, not so much chronic disease issues with like cancer, heart disease, that kind of thing, but more athletic injury and lack of recovery. The people still haven't learned how to recover from the weekend softball or the weekend pickleball or just the weekend warrior stuff. And I know, like Nick, when you were serving, I'm sure there were days when you're just like your body was just exhausted, like you were just because there wasn't enough recovery time between missions, right? So
yeah,
and that's when soldiers are at risk of getting hurt or killed is when you're not sharp. You don't have that time, and we're all that way, professionally, socially. If we're not sharp, we're in trouble. And I just think I think the focus pretty much going into future years is really going to focus on recovery, is being able to do that mental reset, to have that physical reset.
If I can add, because I added it in the chat, don't mean to interrupt you, but I have noticed that, what I was reading in psychology and researchers too, is that the deep sleep is very important for your, I would say more the physical, I don't know if I would say regeneration, but the physical, so that you feel rested, and the paradoxal, which is the REM, is more like when you start consolidating your memory, and so both are very important. I mean, the one where you dream, it's important to go through all the cycles basically, because that's usually what helps your whole body to recuperate, both your brain and, because it is true that a lack of sleep and going through those periods you are more at risk for neurodegenerative disease like Alzheimer's, and studied a lot because of my family, but yes. So it's hard, the recovery of trying to get that sleep, because I guess in our situations, like for example, if you're at home and you can, kind of catch up on that sleep in the afternoon, that, you might end up just being able to have those cycles. But if you spend like 4 hours and like at night, and then you wake up and then you can't go back to sleep the whole day, I find I think of what your schedule must be. I don't think you have time to nap in the afternoon, So.
No, but I look at like professional athletes and professional athletes that compete at the highest levels. And I look at LeBron James as somebody who has been very open about his entire schedule, about how he like pregame. He takes a 2-hour nap in the middle of the day. He forces himself for a 2-hour nap before games to make sure that his body is completely rested before he steps on the court for his pre-workout. Like, figure the game starts at say 8:00. He's got to report to the arena, say at 5. Get through his pre-workout routine, stretching, all that stuff. So he's got that midday nap, from let's say like 12 to 2, where he makes sure that his body is completely rested. And I know a lot of professional athletes are now incorporating more of that midday nap prior to game day, as part of their routine. Unfortunately, I can't do that, but it's. I like to. There are certain days I do a lot. Actually, you can see where that midday nap would be really therapeutic for me. But
I am really interested. I'm sorry to interrupt, but your articles on acellular dermal tissues. Could you speak a little bit about that? Because I found that fascinating.
So a lot of my work in the chronic wound healing space, when we're talking about patients who are diabetic or have venous leg disease and have pressure injuries or pressure ulcers, a lot has to do with the fact that we can't close the skin primarily, or we can't take the patient to the operating room and do a skin flap or do some sort of incisional closure to get stitches across it, like a traditional laceration repair. What we have to do is we have to or there's such a deficit where it's deep, where it's a deep wound down the muscle or bone or even like tendon tissue, where we can't heal the skin that way. So we have to fill the wound in. So we use these dermal tissues, and they come from varying sources. We have autografts, which are from the patient themselves. We have allografts, which are donated skin from other patients, cadaveric skin, for example. Okay. Then we have xenografts, which are from other species. So over the years, I have done research on bovine, ovine, porcine. There's been equine, which I have not used. I do not use equine tissue. But you remember the days when they were doing the pig valve repairs in the heart? Those were pig valves, right? And so like we've always used these other species.
Yes.
I've done a lot of research in fish skin using the omega-3 part of the Icelandic cod skin for repair and regeneration. And then we've moved into the amniotic placental allografts, where these are the donated placentas from childbirth that go to laboratories where they'll make these very, very thin paper sheets. And
so you you have a baby, you donate the placenta, and then somebody else
they go to a processing tissue. They go to a processing tissue laboratory specifically. It's part of the AATB, the American Academy of Tissue Banks. So it goes to a tissue bank. University of Miami has one of the largest ones in the country. So they go to the tissue banks, and then they are processing all of these placental type amniotic allografts. So this is, I don't know if you guys are watching the New York Times. This is kind of the big story that kind of hit back in April of last year. There was another one that hit again, I think later in September, about the cost spend with Medicare with these, where the Medicare spend on these tissues in 2023 was like 2.3 billion, and then it skyrocketed in 2022, and then in 23 and 24 it skyrocketed to 12 billion. And so that's created a whole nother issue in the Medicare system, because there were other physicians and mobile home care and mobile wound care groups that were using these tissues just without doing standard of care therapies, and the government was just paying it out like $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a unit. It was I mean. And
so that was like Gold Star solutions for something that could have used a Band-Aid or something like that, basically.
Yeah. And there were no limitations on application. It was crazy. I mean, the abuse was insane. So now that they're starting to say, oh, wait a minute. So they cut the price down to an incident use for like $128 per unit, regardless of tissue type for next year. Administrator Dr. Oz basically cut the price by 90%. But there's always consequences with legislation and administration, right? They think they're solving one problem but create another one, because there's nobody there at HHS to offset issues. Like you walk in the building and it's empty because of all the cuts.
So how has what's been the biggest impact to you and the work you're doing from governmental cuts to HHS, either through staffing or through monetary, or even through potential monetary? I know the big bullshit bill hasn't hit itself physically yet. However, a lot of people are preparing for it, knowing that funding won't be there the next year. How has that impacted you in your practice?
And if I could just add research into that too.
And research,
I complicate everything.
So here's the thing. So I'll start with the research question and work my way backwards. So the way it works in wound care research, because providers that perform wound care services, because there's no official residency training program in the United States under the American College of Graduate Medical Education, whether it's MDT or DPM. So there's no residency training program that's board certified wound care. These are all third-party board certification companies that providers kind of do as part of their practices. So we kind of regulate ourselves. So with that in mind, there is no NIH and has been zero NIH research for wound healing. It's all been industry supported.
Ever?
Fascinating.
Ever. Even at the VA level, it still gets industry supported.
Interesting.
Okay.
Interesting. That seems really backwards.
It's
private.
It's
because the government is supposed to do basic research, and
right. So they do, but what happens is that basic research doesn't ever translate into the really expensive randomized controlled trials that the Medicare administrators, that the MACs, so the U.S. healthcare system for Medicare is broken up into 5 jurisdictions of private industry that manages the Medicare contracts for the government. So there's 5 big companies that basically break up Medicare into the 50 contiguous U.S. states and the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico and American Samoa, all the territories. So each one of those contractors is responsible for doling out the monies that HHS then submits as each quarter for Medicare claims. So we're talking, millions to billions of spend per year. And it's everything from, asthma and all the way down to treating, water. Like it's basically from A to Z, every medical condition, every medical specialty, from allergy medicine, behavioral health, cardiology, internal medicine, podiatry, down to orthopedics, translational medicine, all the way down, urology, every Medicare provider. So all these buckets. And then there's the Part A bucket, Part B bucket, how the money's different spend. So we're talking trillions. We're talking $1 trillion budgets. And look who's running. So with the research stuff, with no NIH funding, it's all been industry based. So what happens is our clinical trials that we perform are then highly more scrutinized by the Medicare contractors because it's not grant funded, it's industry funded. So there's always this inherent bias in the clinical trial that's always referenced by the Medicare contractors for coverage and for coverage. Right. And then for everybody out there, there's all the Medicare splits it between pricing and coverage. They're two separate things, and those two never talk to each other. So the coverage people deal with coverage, and then the pricing people deal with the pricing. So it's a whole really confluent system that is very confusing if you don't know how to navigate it on the industry side or even on the consumer side, because you don't know what's covered, what's not covered, policy here, policy there. So it's crazy. And like, for example, when we're talking about these dermal tissue products and really there's only one coverage policy, and it only covers diabetic foot ulcers and venous leg ulcers. So when you have, say, a surgical wound or a post-Mohs that doesn't heal or a pressure injury, those things are not covered under the coverage policy, the way Medicare works. And the way that works is Medicare is basically saying, here's a clinical diagnosis. Okay. This is how we recommend. This is by the literature and the science and the guidelines, this is how we recommend that we're treating this disease. But if it's something else that's not covered under that policy, then it becomes medical necessity. And they have the right to audit it, prepayment approval, send in the clinical records. But again, now this goes back to Nick's question, Stephanie, on from the research side and how it affects the clinical, so that the people that are reviewing these medical records are never my peers. It might be a nurse. It might be another doctor, but not in my specialty, who has no idea what I'm talking about.
Right. Well, I've heard that like it even could be somebody not.
This is across the board with medical, all the private insurers too.
Right.
Like I might wind up with a pre-authorization request for a patient undergoing an Achilles tendon repair, but I might wind up speaking to a retired OBGYN that's answering the phone for Aetna. I have no idea what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I actually have a question. Well, if I can interject, because I believe that I saw, did you say in your bio, I read the word Glasgow, like it's in Scotland, right?
Last time I checked,
it's still there. What's that?
Last time I checked, it's still there. Yes.
It's still there. Okay. Well, so I guess then my question. Okay, so I'm not wrong. How would you say? Because obviously you have been there and you have seen how they, I guess, operate with their medical system. I mean, so how do you think this has influenced the way that you now perceive your work in the States? Do you know what I mean? Like,
I've never worked in the UK. So there's a College of Podiatric Medicine that's in the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons in Scotland. So as a practicing podiatrist in the United States, we get nominated to be part of their fellow faculty. Go there. Right. So I've never practiced in the UK, but I'm familiar because I go to the European Wound Management meeting every year. So European systems are like a Medicare for all system, right? That's a universal healthcare model. Everybody pays taxes. And there's a reason why, let's say, for example, like the Dutch pay 60% of income taxes, but they also have free college education, free healthcare. They speak 5 languages, and they can run circles around us when it comes to education. Okay. This mentality in the U.S. of no taxation without representation and keep as much money as possible works in the capitalistic system, but not when you're talking about a social democratic system where you people demand healthcare. They demand services. They demand the government to help me out. I mean, I think, all the, like, take the farmer, like this $12 billion bailout for the farmers, right? I mean, that's a safety net program that they just created for that.
And it's not the first time.
Right. We did to the banks in 2008, with the auto industry in 2008. And we can keep going, right? I mean, healthcare got a bailout at the beginning of COVID, which really helped me out because we were closed. I mean, patients weren't coming in. I mean, physicians would be out of business back then. I mean,
yeah.
So the physicians who weren't treating COVID,
right,
who were over.
So,
yeah.
For you, as someone who as a practicing doctor and who works with patients and sees, because I advocate for socialized democracy or social democracy because I think they work better, especially around services and the services that they provide. What do you see as like the biggest hindrance in moving forward right now for to get to, say, a universal healthcare system? Because I think we should all have a social healthcare system. I rely on the VA and it works really well. I'm not in medical debt for myself because I go through the VA.
Yeah, but they just cut another.
And they keep cutting and destroying it, but it's always been that way. But
veterans, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But what are your thoughts on, like, because I see the insurance industry really as like the big enemy of all of this. Is it's a corporate model of is it profitable for us? And that's why I kind of cringe when you said it's only been funded by, like, this type of research only been funded by corporate interests, because that means it's profitable for them. But that doesn't mean we're going to get a solution, because profitability often equates to we'll find a medicated solution first and just stop there so that we can reduce a little bit, but not actually keep going in the research to go to the next step of how do we heal the injury.
Although
how do we change that? Like, how do we get to that? And Steph, you can interject too before we get into this question, because this was a little convoluted. But like, how do you see removing corporate profitability interests and returning service interests to the healthcare system, so it's service oriented rather than response and reactive?
I want to hear what Stephanie was going to ask, because I know she had a thought that I don't want to lose what she was thinking.
Okay, so what I was thinking is that so I live in the Boston area, which Eric, I'm sure, knows, but I don't know about the rest of you.
Freezing last weekend.
It's fucking freezing today. But anyway, there's a lot of biotech here. Like a lot of biotech, and like every third person graduated from MIT has a PhD. For like, it's crazy how overeducated and how many people work in biotech. So I don't necessarily, I guess proximity breeds sometimes contempt, but sometimes appreciation. So it knowing the people who work in biotech who are really out there to find cures just as much as people who work for a university or work for the hospitals who ultimately work for a university most of the time. I don't think it's a complete loss in terms of innovation. I mean, if you look at some of the stuff that they've come up with around obesity, around diabetes, around all that stuff. But I also see it as a far more complex system than public-private. Like, it seems, public is universities, it's hospitals, it's tax funded. Private could be like Novo Nordisk and whatever, Eli Lilly, but it could also be, other kinds of medical. I just don't know that it's such an easy bifurcation.
It's not so easy, but I will say in my particular industry, that the companies that are involved in wound healing truly are dedicated to healing patients, because that's the model, right? It's I have not met a wound provider that's one of my colleagues that has said, I don't want that wound to heal. I just, I mean, it's like those of us that are like have been doing this long enough, give me the worst wound you can think of. Said, I want to heal. I mean, it's almost like a challenge. Like it's almost like trying to take that patient who's got like the worst, like 18 comorbidities. They're like the worst diet. Their A1C is 92.5%, right? They're like, I can heal that. Give me that patient. I can heal that patient, right? So I want to make that very clear that the companies that I do work with, and I currently have 2 clinical trials running at the office. Like we're dedicated healers. It's what we want. It's what we try to do. Okay. To go back to Nick's question on the profiteering that's happened, I think we're seeing it really live in front of us. It happened on December 11th, right? The Senate had 2 votes, right, to pass ACA subsidies going into next year. And what happened? What did they do? They filibustered the first one, okay, and then Thune decided to filibuster the second one to give everybody what, $1,500 in a ACA credit for next year. Like most patients, most families. I mean, I wish Melissa was on here. I'd love to find out what kind of quote she got for her ACA plan. And if Melissa, you're out there, hi, I'm sorry that you have to go through all this. But like for most people who have to go through the ACA, you're seeing anywhere from 30 to 80% premium increases.
Right. $1,000 isn't going to do a whole hell of a lot.
It's jack shit, right? It's almost laughable. It's almost an insult to say. It's like, opening up a bank account and say, here's $2 to open your bank account. You can't even go to the movies by yourself, right? So really, in my last article I wrote on Substack, which was, when healthcare in America dies, and this is what we're slowly seeing it. It's almost like it's like a slow bleed out, like in the battlefield. Like you can't fix it, but the patient, your partner, your buddy's dying in the field, but there's nothing you can do about it right now.
But it seems like it's geographical too, though.
But yes and no. But it's like this goes back to this corporate profitability. If you look at the 3 sectors in healthcare, it's pharma, it's hospitals, and insurance. Mm-hmm. Okay. I like to call them the Tom, Dick, and Harry, because you usually don't trust people with those names. So it's
or Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe. Okay.
Okay. So what happens is the pharma industry does all
That was good, Steph.
I like that one. So like the pharma industry caters to the hospital industry. The hospital industry is catering to the pharma industry. Then the pharma industry is catering. Then the hospitals are fighting with the insurance industry. And then the pharma companies are fighting with. So I try to tell patients this basic thing. Insurance companies are like a bank. They're going to get their money from you no matter what. They're going to charge their fees no matter what. So the trick is when patients are looking at their insurance policies, I tell them one thing. Look at your stop loss. What's your out-of-pocket maximum for the year? You want to minimize that as much as possible. Cut your out-of-pocket maximum. It's great that you have a $115 deductible or $115 premium, but if your deductible is $12,000, it doesn't help.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay, because then your out-of-pocket is going to be 20 to 25. That makes no sense, because what happens if you have a catastrophic event? You're winding up at the hospital. Now you're going to get hit with a hospital bill, and thanks to POTUS, okay, if you default any of that, now it goes on your credit report. It was not like that under the previous administration. That was absolved on your credit report. Now it goes back on your. So now you're making Americans cheaper. They're worth less. They're going to have to pay more interest on loans because it's on their credit report, and you're still sick. So this is a bang up job our administration is doing right now. This isn't making America healthy or happier again.
No, it's
bankrupting people.
Bankrupting. Right.
And it's so hard to figure out. I finally, I had to figure out mine and then my mother's Medicare drug plan. And it's so freaking hard. I highly recommend the use of AI in this because it can do the calculations super quickly. I mostly don't think AI is generative AI. But this was really helpful. But exactly, figuring out what is the out-of-pocket maximum, when do you get to stop paying, is something that a lot of people never even think of, because I've gotten to my out-of-pocket maximum in the past, which is really freaking hard to do a lot of the time. But then, you know, like you just like do stuff and they don't
I
charge you
try to tell
anymore.
patients to get into their co-insurance phase as quickly as possible. Like kind of rip through your deductible as quickly as you can. And even though you may have an out-of-pocket, say like $8,000 for the calendar year, if you can get to your deductible of $2,000, for example, and then you're $6,000 out of pocket, at least you're in an 80-20 environment where you're only going to be paying 20% of all of the charges up to $8,000. I think, you know, I think people assume that health insurance is health insurance and it's just, oh, I have it, so I shouldn't have to pay anything. But the way, I mean, this has been going on for some time, and it's getting to the point where now, because the insurance companies don't want to insure the risk pools, because now that the ACA, they figured out a way to kill the ACA, right? This was the fix that they need to do over the last 15 years that they refused to do. And now you have both in Florida. So, for example, you have Aetna and United Healthcare are not going to be supplying ACA plans for next year. So it's going to force people into more Medicaid versions, bronze Medicaid plans, which have limited networks. So then that's the other thing that the insurance company, right? They limit the amount of physicians you can get to, because for me, they look at me like an expense. They don't look at me like a healthcare provider. I'm on a balance sheet. I'm on the expense side of the balance sheet. Like, oh, we got to pay him. Really? We got to pay this guy over here? Well, that's an expense, right? So, and I love what insurance companies have done. And most people don't really look at this, but the bank sheet analysis makes a lot of sense. So on the income side are who? The agents that sell the plans and the subscribers, right? You buy a plan, you're a subscriber. You're on the income side of the insurance side. So what do they, when they look at hospitals and providers and doctors and labs and radiology centers and surgery centers, those are all expenses, okay? So what did they do? They created an expense to deal with an expense. They create what they call provider services, right? The people that we have to call to get prior are another expense to the insurance company. And the whole thing is like, oh, well, then we're not going to, that's why the first three lines are deny.
Well, I want to jump in. You talked about, difficult wound cares. I don't know, you may be familiar with pilonidal cysts. My years ago, my 18-year-old son had 5 pilonidal cysts, and he has severe hemophilia. It took 18 months to heal the wound, mostly because the Children's Hospital out here in Tacoma, Washington, didn't seem to understand, and yet they charged $400,000
facility fees
years ago for his surgery. We ended up having to take him downtown to Virginia Mason to another hospital to finally redo it, and it was healed in 6 weeks. If you want to explain pilonidal cyst to anyone. But it was horrible. It was just horrible, and the expense of it all, just astronomical. And they actually, when I showed the doctors at the other hospital the bill from the Children's Hospital, they took it to have a discussion. They were so shocked that the cost was so high.
Yeah, so everybody doesn't know what a pilonidal cyst is. It's basically on the tailbone, and it's basically at the top of the crease of the buttock, or your ass crack, if you want to, if that makes more sense anatomically for people. It's basically like a little hair nest, and it can fill with blood, serum, pus. It's redness. It can drain a lot. It's just a really tough area. It's almost like having like a surgically induced pressure ulcer.
Imagine having to pack that daily, twice a day for 18 months.
Now, how old was your son when he had the surgery?
18.
Okay, and they didn't offer to do like negative pressure or any type of advanced modality.
I think they didn't understand hemophilia was a big part of it. And they just weren't,
right?
Pardon?
He's already seeing like a hematologist, oncologist.
Oh yeah. It went through all of it. And it was just, because it has to heal from the inside out and keep going. And they just had to re-scrape it out and redo it. And it was just amazing. Again, more costs, more fees, more, it's just, the healthcare system. I've just watched it decline so much. Years ago, I'm a former president of the Hemophilia Foundation of Washington, and so being a part of that and seeing the cost of just hemophilia alone made me want to do something different here. We do need universal health care, without a doubt. You're talking about, you could go through your cap, the lifetime cap on hemophilia. You could go through that in a few years. It is a very expensive.
And this was the stuff that Lawrence was talking about on Gen XE, I think last week, about having income caps. Like, there's no reason for anybody in the United States to be making $500 million a year. It's insane, right? But you could take all this excess, and I like to call it excess because it's really excess, right? And that could be dumped back into the social fund for American people, where you can improve education, improve healthcare. Nobody would have to go hungry. There's no reason why any child should be going hungry. Free school lunches for breakfast and lunch for kids. You know, you could paid universal healthcare, paid child care. I mean, there's the amount of waste that we are experiencing as a society is just insane. And our Canadian neighbors right now, their economy's tanking too. I mean, it's not any better in Canada than it is down here. And, you know, the talk earlier today on that Lawrence and Dana were talking about this morning was the fact that, you know, was it JP Morgan just moved all their gold trading across to Singapore and over there. I mean, like, we're looking,
of course they did.
Yeah, we're looking at a massive devaluation of the US currency probably by mid 27. I mean, by mid 26, I'm sorry. But what's that going to do in healthcare? It's going to totally, how is this going to affect people's health? You're going to have more stress, more injury, more inflammation, more chronic conditions. You know, when the economy tends to go south, people get sicker. I mean, that's what happens, right? Now they have to work more. There's more stress. They can't pay their bills. It starts to lay on people. We're not getting happier or healthier. And
so I like to try and be solution oriented too in how we think. And I know Steph has helped guide me into more solution oriented because she's a historian. And she talks about it a lot. And others around. What is a solution that you would advocate for the United States on a policy, just if you were running for office, let's say, what is the solution? And I know you're not running for office, but
I don't even think running for office is the key. I think is if you were like king for the day, like, because it's distributed.
Isn't that king for a day comment now?
Well, without like
first day, right? I only be a king for one day.
Yeah, only for a day. And then you'd sell all your cryptocurrency and you'd not be king anymore for the rest of the days. But for the one day, if you could make a wish come true as a medical provider or just as a person, what would be the one biggest change that you think the US could do from a policy standpoint to actually make health about preventative care and about healing rather than about profit?
Okay. So it's not about a Medicare for all, because giving people health benefits doesn't make them any healthier, right? So we got to take that off the table, and that's probably going to irritate some people in the chat, but that's not the answer either. Okay. That's a solution to the overall, how do we fix everything? It really, honestly, I don't even think it's a healthcare issue. I really think it's a mental health issue. Okay. And that mental health issue has to be, we have to figure out a way to start controlling social media and the negative effects that social media has on your health. Okay. Especially with our kids. Cause this is going to start, we have to generationally change behavior. Okay. Just like the whole, I mean, the metaphor here is the Israeli-Arab conflicts. That's generational, right? That's just years after years, and you know that we have a whole new generation now exposed to more violence instead of ending it and fixing it. We have a whole, it's a perpetuated cycle. We have a perpetuated cycle here of not dealing with mental health in the United States, and I think it all starts if you feel better, if you think you feel better, then you physically feel better. And if you physically feel better, you want to do more things. And and I don't want to just say it's like the one thing, Nick, it's such a hard question to answer. If I could pick three, maybe.
Yeah.
If you can give me three.
I'll
Yeah,
give you three
three.
if Nick won't.
I'll give you 3.
Okay. I think addressing mental health, number one. Number two is making our food supply safer and healthier. Okay. That
Yes.
everybody should be able to go to any supermarket, whether it's not Whole Foods, but like a natural, and know that the food you're buying is safe across the board, that it's healthy, it's safe, and like reducing the effect of processed foods in society, reducing the
Yeah,
effect of
less ultra.
like you can make significant food choices and changes through educational investment. And the third one is you give everybody in the US the opportunity to have gym memberships for free or some sort of athletic membership to get them active. I think it's the physical exposure of exercise on health that's been well documented in scientific literature. Like the effect of how exercising changes your mood and how it changes your aspect of life. You typically then make social changes. And then as part of that third thing is that I would make the GLP-1 drug therapy available to everybody.
Everybody, as it changes. Okay, so you all know I'm on it. It changes your brain. Like you act differently, you eat differently, you drink differently, you get different messages. Like,
do you know how they found the GLP-1 drugs? Do you know how they discovered it?
No.
Okay, so for everybody out there, so the GLP drugs we're talking about semaglutide and tirzepatide. Okay, so
Which
they were
is Ozempic and Wegovy and Zepbound. Yeah.
Wegovy, Zepbound, right? So these are drugs that were designed specifically for patients who had chronic, unrelenting diabetes, unresponsive to, let's say, metformin, or the insulin dosing was getting too high. So they moved. So how they found this was that after bariatric surgery. So patients that were really obese that had bariatric surgery, that had the gastric sleeve or whatever they had procedure had done, right? When they were measuring pancreatic enzymes and dialing down at the university levels, they were actually able to measure this glucagon-like 1 peptide that was massively increased in post-bariatric patients. That was the inhibiting factor for the food center in the brain that told them when they were done eating. So they were able to harness that protein, that signaling protein, an exosome, okay, which is a signaling protein, is called an exosome, and we're able to manufacture a drug. Put it in a vehicle and make it available as either an injectable via syringe or an auto injector pen. So for those of you that are out there, I've lost over 50 pounds on GLP-1s.
Congratulations.
I've lost over 100 between surgery and GLP-1s.
Congratulations.
6 or 7 years. Yeah.
And I can't afford it right now.
That's the thing.
And the VA won't approve mine.
And I think if everybody goes on GLP-1s, we could decrease the amount of incidental diabetes in this country, which changes the food intake, the food supply, all the crap that people are eating, and it just changes the way you look about yourself, how you feel about yourself. But I also wanted to talk about that there's other issues that the GLP-1 drugs are so beneficial in decreasing overall system inflammation, from digestive to cardiac to genitourinary to vascular issues. It decreases systemic body inflammation, which invariably makes you healthier.
Right. There's like a 25% increase in cardiac, I don't know how to say this, in cardiac health.
Yeah.
With the GLP-1s. I mean, it's insane how much it does.
Truly is a revolutionary drug. It really, and it really should be available to every American for free. So that would be one of the other things that I would honestly do for free, and across the board institute from a health perspective.
Yeah. Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly will not thank you for that, but
they will, because the government contract would pay for it.
Would pay for it. Okay.
Okay. And
that's what a service could provide.
Yeah.
That's what taxpayer funding, if we tax the rich, would provide us. That's all it really takes is collective wealth gathering on a national level. That's what our founding fathers did, was they donated their collective wealths together into a national treasury to pay for the soldiers and to pay for basic roads and systems to get soldiers and folks to fight a war to become the US. So we need to once again have our rich folks donate their funds into a collective, not donate, but be required to provide their funds into a collective gathering. And we use that for the betterment of the American people.
Well, that's what taxation is. You just tax them at a much higher level.
Yeah, I think there should be a wealth minimum and a wealth cap. I think we should have both because we need both ends of the spectrum. So I'm going to get to you here in a second, and then we're going to move over to our meditation because it's almost the top of the hour, and we have a winter wonderland meditation to do today. So before we get to that,
it gets to me though. It's gonna melt by the time it gets to me.
Well, it might not. I mean, you might just be underwater at some point soon.
Well, like Beth, it'll all go downhill.
I mean, it's still we're still drowning out here. So
the article of the 3 states that are currently underwater that you haven't heard anything about.
Yeah, well, Beth is living it.
Yeah, one is Washington
State.
That
one you probably heard about.
And what's the third one?
Montana.
Oregon. Not hearing anything about it.
Nothing on the news about this. Like the fact that there's severe weather everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Before we get to our meditation.
Well, just quickly, because as maybe not everybody knows, but I'm Canadian, so I'm like I've been listening a lot, and what you describe as the medical, general medical healthcare, it has to be a society choice, because when you say that, I pay more than, well, depending again on your salary bracket, on what your family makes, and I will say that, right now, most of us will be paying between 35 to 50 and more percent of, at the end of the year. And honestly, if this is a collective choice to know that, you will be healthy, you don't have to worry about, going bankrupt the next time you're going to go to the hospital. I find that, fortunately, in our case, I can think of Quebec because, the healthcare is managed by the provinces in Canada. But it is like a system where, we all pitch in and then we get access. In Quebec, we used to have a sun on our card, like our health insurance card. So it was called La Carte Soleil, so the sun card, and I find that it was a choice that we made years ago. We're still trying, you'll hear people complain, but I mean, if you think of my mother, and I say it like a year ago, she had like a 4 bypass surgery. And how much does that cost, to pay for the hospital, the surgeon? Like, if your mother has that in the States, like, how will that, I mean, for me, it is so important that people realize, because I was told by someone, I won't say who, like they were just going for work in the States. And, when people are like, yeah, but I won't decide where my money goes. Like, it's my money, and then it's like, I'll decide where I'll put my money. And it's such a mentality, like it has to come from the people so that they change. I mean, everybody wants that, but it's how do you put it into, like you said, solution, actions. People start making more representation to make sure that that is part of their values, and it becomes operationalized, like at the lower levels. I know it's a big issue, but anyways, I'm just cheering for you guys to just, do that. I know it's not easy.
And I want to get to the meditation, but you brought up a really important topic here that I think we all understand, that those of us that are Americans, is that what you are describing has to be an inherent, complete change in our legislative bodies, from really from the federal down to the state level, where the people that are beholden to corporate interests and insurance interests, that we almost have. I think, Nick, you mentioned it a week or so ago, or maybe it was Shane, about having a constitutional reformation to basically upgrade the Constitution, to get rid of things like Citizens United, which have literally destroyed this country since 2010. I mean, this is 16 years of damage of allowing corporations to be people. And and it's not helping. But we have to change leadership. If we have the wrong leaders in power, it is more dangerous than having the right people making bad decisions.
Yeah,
You know,
Yeah,
totally
exactly what you're doing right now.
totally agree.
Those of us that are true Americans, and we really want to see everything. We want to see everything positive. This is so disheartening where we're at today, and but the fight is us making these changes every November. That's our responsibility as citizens to make sure that our voice is heard. But it's not just November, that first Tuesday in November. It's the entire year, and being that patriot and fighting for what we believe in to know to be right and true.
Agreed.
Agreed. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Every day.
Yep.
Every day.
Yeah.
I thought that was really well put. And
Yeah.
and we vote every day with our dollars and with our voices and with our actions. And part of that is remembering community and remembering, like Dr. Eric said, like we've all been talking about, is mental health is a huge part of all of this. And so one of our ways of combating mental health is meditation, or combating the negative effects in mental health and letting ourselves open up to our emotions and open up to ourselves is through meditation. And so Beth Cruz and Soso have put together another amazing and wonderful meditation with pictures from Soso's collection and Beth's collection called Winter Wonderland today. So please silence your comments for a few moments, hit the heart, and enjoy this last meditation as we get ready to close out our show for the day. And thank you everyone for being with us so far. It's been such a pleasure having you, Eric. Thank you for being with us.
Great. Thank you for inviting me. This was amazing. And I really enjoy reading all of your guys' work, and thank you for including me in this. This was truly a special thing for me. So thank you.
Thank you. And everyone, enjoy today's meditation.
Welcome to a virtual winter wonderland. Begin by taking a deep breath in through your nose and slowly exhale out through your mouth. Let any stress that you may feel fall away from your body. If you have any tension in your neck or shoulders, release it all. Let it go. You do not need to carry that weight with you on this path. This journey is one of peace and tranquility. Allow yourself to be present in this moment of quiet stillness. Imagine the crisp, fresh air, heavy with the woodsy scent of evergreen, pine, and fir. The new fallen snow is glistening as the gentle rays of the sun touch the blanketed landscape. Imagine you smell smoke linger in the frosty air from a distant wood-burning stove. The winter wind sings through the trees in the valley, but you are warm and relaxed as you continue your journey. You feel grounded and calm as you enjoy this serene moment. Take another deep breath in and slowly exhale out through your mouth. If there is any more stress or tension in your body that you wish to let go of before you begin your day, let it go now. Give your body permission to relax. Like the snow, you were meant to glisten. Bring the beautiful light and stillness with you throughout your day and throughout your week ahead. Although you may revisit this winter wonderland journey at any time that you need a moment to recharge. It was made for you.
Thank you, Beth and So. That was so amazing.
Do it.
And
Welcome.
I will be posting all sorts of comments, and I will be sure to include our meditation as always, and links to it for Beth and So. So everybody, thank you for being with us today so far. This is the closeout of our show here, is where we get to promote people and sell ourselves and tell people where they can help and support us. And Dr. Eric, at least you got one new subscriber from me today, which was me. And I made sure to subscribe. And so, Dr. Eric, how can people help you? Because the work you're doing is really important, and the information you're putting out is really informative, as much as information can be informative. But it's powerful information and very useful tools, and very helpful. And I really enjoyed this conversation today. So please sell yourself. How can people find you?
So I am on here on Substack under Eric Lullove. I try to publish some sort of medical related article twice a month. I'm busy, so I don't have a lot of time for writing. But subscriptions to my feed are completely free. I do not charge. It's not my purpose to take money from people here. It's not my role. That's why the people above me in the boxes need your support. But again, you can find me on my website at drlullove.com. I have a bunch of other stuff on YouTube. This is my other site, the Pickleball Podiatrist, where I do pickleball training instruction material for those of you that do play. And that's pretty much it with me. I kind of keep a medium to low profile, but again, that just changed as of today. And I'll be on Gen XE with Lawrence and Dana on Friday for Plugged Up Friday. So
nice, good.
Yeah. And we're going to talk more Maha and MAGA and why the ACA is completely trashed. So.
It's important discussion. So thank you for continuing it and bringing us that.
Thanks
discussion.
for bringing me on. I really appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for today. This is great.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Thank you.
And I'm going to run through real quick just all of our links so that they're on the screen. We've got Soso's World for the amazing photography, for the good comments, for the shares from our Canadian friends, and showing that and telling us and reminding us we're not alone. It's important to have folks like Soso here with us. And so go support my friend Soso and the work she's doing, her photography. I'm trying to find there it is. While I'm monologuing for a second, I was trying to find Beth's link.
It's okay.
And then support Beth at the Possibilitarian's Light, where she's doing some amazing meditations and work. And I love having Beth with me and having her here. And she's in one of those flood zones that nobody's talking about. So enjoy swimming across the river to BC as you go down your toboggan ride from the mountains to the ocean in your flooding.
I guess Jack said he's gonna, he might be able to paddle over. He was saying in the.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend that, Jack. I hear that the U.S. is pretty strict on anybody coming into the country, and the Navy's been known to bomb folks these days. So,
you might want to reconsider, but yeah.
So stay safe, our friend. Stay safe, Jack. And then my good friend Stephanie Wilson, Freedom Over Fascism, where she's doing so many great interviews. Last week had two amazing Jewish creators on. One was a rabbi, and I really enjoyed getting to listen to those discussions and having that that dialogue out there, especially right now with it being Hanukkah. Happy Hanukkah,
Happy
Steph,
Hanukkah to you too.
and everyone in the audience.
And this is Ruby, and I'm going to put her down.
Oh, and it's always good to have fur friends.
I want to know what Ruby's getting for Hanukkah, though.
Ruby just got a haircut for Hanukkah.
Hanukkah haircut.
Hanukkah haircut. I like it. And then finally, come support me here. Sick of this shit publications. It's my home, and I'm trying to build it strong and help get more of this out there and more of the discussion open so people can hear what's going on. So thank you everyone for being here. We are chronically illing out and chilling out on a Monday morning. So go chill out yourselves, go take care of yourselves. Eric, it was wonderful having you here with us. I cannot wait to see you on Dana Lawrence's show on Friday.
Yep.
Friends, thank you for joining
Thank
me.
you so much.
Have a good week. We've got a lot ahead of us. Happy Hanukkah to those who celebrate, and take care. Let's stop being sick of this shit and let's start doing it. Have a great week, y'all.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a good week.